So basically what we're trying to do is perform a heart transplant on a robot. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In the last video, you saw that we tried to redesign the beating heart of my robot. But even after that design change, it still has a few flaws. And we're going to try to rectify those today. Specifically, we're going to try to provide a way for the robot to grab onto a coin and rotate that into position between two cameras so that we can take nice pictures of it. But the problem is, I really have no idea how to do that yet. I started doodling on some pages, and you can see some of my work here. I got thinking about how we could actually grab this. But I really think that the idea is that a follower could be running along the outside edge of this coin slider and actually push down into this space so that you're positively holding on to the coin. I was thinking about how that might work. You can see that you can create areas that slide up and down. And I was thinking on this one that maybe there'd be a little cog along the outside edge here that moves this piece back and forth around a pivot. What I ended up with was having a line drawn here with a small pivot and then a circular portion or an arc out here. And this whole piece will rotate into position and actually positively hold onto the coin. I can draw that in more detail here, but my theory is that you can split the coin slider along this point here. You can create a pivot around here, and if you know what the center of that pivot is here, you can use that center point to create an arc. Then this whole piece here that we've shaded here can rotate in and out of this space where the penny is and actually hold on to it positively. So I started playing around in FreeCAD to see what the finished product would look like, and I ended up with something like this. You can see that this half moon shape here is really just one of those holes that's in the coin slider. And this part here, this piece here, is that part I was talking about. You have a small pivot point here with its center here, and this outer arc here also centered on that pivot point there. That allows this whole piece to rotate into the space held by the penny, and this piece will now hold on to the penny. We need to think about that a little bit more, but that is my major plan for how to grab onto these coins and hold them positively as we rotate them through each of the three positions on the robot. And again, once I have that in 3D modeled space, I can 3D print that, and then we can test out how it works and see if there are any problems with that. And this is what I ended up with. So you can see here that we have these two pieces that we showed on the screen before in FreeCAD. And I was really surprised at how good the tolerances are on my 3D printer, that you can actually snap these pieces together. And that piece rotates along that arc, and it will rotate into the space occupied by the penny. And you can use that difference in geometry now to hold onto the penny more positively. And when you're done, when you're ready to release it, you can move that piece back into position and the penny will release. We can kind of see how that works here. That now positively holds onto the penny and won't let it drop. But when I'm ready, we can just rotate that back out of place and the penny will fall through. So that's great. That's really the rough idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a grabber that positively holds onto the penny as it rotates through each of those positions. But as I got thinking about it a little bit more, in one of my previous designs, I had this idea of using a rubber band to move a piece of the coin slider into position so you could positively grab onto the coin. And I thought maybe that I could use that idea in this rotational idea as well. But that also requires a little bit of design tweaking. So we're going to just continue to iterate on this coin grabber idea that I have, but we're going to change the geometry just a little bit so that we can finish the design and make sure that it's actually going to be robust enough to work in the finished machine. So let's just start with a blank sheet of paper and we'll start over again using this general starting point, and we will use that to kind of finalize the design or kind of iterate on it at least a little bit. Hey everyone, it's future me. I just wanted to take a moment to say that I've been doing some work on our website at thecoinbot.com. There you can find the latest blog articles about coin collecting, the latest developments in machine learning, and get early access to my YouTube videos. I hope you'll get a chance to check it out and let me know what you think down in the comments. We're going to use a new piece of paper here, and I will use my rotary coin slider here, and we'll talk about what else I have in mind for this. So this is sort of that half moon shape that we had shown in FreeCAD. I'm going to take that again, and we will split it here. And we know in the center of this machine that we have a gear about here. So we're going to try to avoid that. In this new design that I'm thinking about, I'm thinking that we need to have a pivot point somewhere on this side of the coin. But we're also thinking about this cog that needs to be along the outside edge of this on some sort of follower. So we should incorporate that follower into the finished design. And I'm thinking if we have a larger lever out here, we can actually open and close this much more efficiently. So we're going to create a little lever here that actuates around this pivot point. So we split that here. And then again, we know that the center point of this pivot is there. And we want to create a much larger arc now. So I'm going to use this as the center point and create a larger arc out here and continue this split down to the other side. So now we've significantly changed the geometry of this shaded portion. We can see that this lever is longer. This will allow us to open and close this, and there will be positive stops for this on both sides of the coin. We need to leave a little wiggle room here, so an open space up there for that to rotate around, but this gap will open and close down here. So I think that's going to be a much better design. And we can actually attach a rubber band somewhere around this point down here. And as we follow around, as this is rotating, we'll be able to push down on this lever in order to open and close this mechanism. I know that's a little confusing, so I'm going to try to draw that up in FreeCAD and we'll see how that goes. Once I got laying out all the parts in 3D space in FreeCAD, it became clear that most of the pieces rotate around some center point. Usually this center pivot here, but sometimes it would be the center of the coin slider itself. But that all became clear, and you could actually lay out all of the parts and how they rotate based on the center of one of these circles. When I tried to 3D print this, you can see I was trying to be clever by using two different colors to differentiate between the two pieces so that they'd show up better on camera, but that ended up being a mistake. You can see that the 3D printer is screwing up here a little bit, and every time it needs to change color, it needs to go back over and remove the excess filament from the hot end. So that ended up being a mistake, and I think that this caused problems with the accuracy of the print. And this is what the finished print looked like. As you can see, this pivot point here wasn't quite large enough, and the print resolution wasn't good enough to make that a clean, round shape. So therefore, these pieces don't really fit together all that well. You can see air between all of them. So that means that I may need to make this a little bit bigger, but the idea is there. Like I'm happy with this on some level because at least I can see that this will work. The idea is to get this to pivot around there and open and close to grab the penny and release it. So we will go back into FreeCAD and redesign this part in at least 2 dimensions with this pivot being just a little bit larger. I think that's the major change. I think we can also make this bar up here, this push bar, a little wider. I looked back at my original design for this, and I was looking at this particular pivot here. This pivot is about 6.5 millimeters across. So I think I just need to make the pivot in all future designs at least that big, because that seems to work well. These fit together well, and that works well as a pivot. So in FreeCAD this time, what I'm really trying to accomplish is to make that bar just a little bit thicker so that it's easier to push down and release the penny. And I want to make that pivot dimension just a little bit bigger so that the pieces snap together and they rotate better. I ended up printing everything in a single color again, just because that makes it easier and the print resolution seems to work out a little bit better if the print nozzle stays warm the entire time. It's not switching between colors for each layer. But this is what I ended up with. I think there's some tweaks that I can still do here, but it seems to work pretty well. This lever is much thicker now, and it rotates in and out of position so that we can actually grab onto the coin. So you can see that when there's a follower that comes along this path here, it will push down on this and release the coin. And I can kind of show you that in action too. If we're pushing down on this side of the bar, and that'll be controlled by a rubber band that spans this gap here. When we use that follower along the outside edge here, that'll push down on that and release the penny. So that actually works very well. The thing that I can do is I can tighten up this gap a little bit. It doesn't need to be quite that wide. And the other thing I'm interested in is using some of this thickness to control how this moves, you know, in the z-axis this way, because I think we might have run into problems with that. So that in the next iteration, we're going to use the same design, but we're going to control that z-axis play a little bit more. So that's great. So stay tuned. We're going to play around in FreeCAD a little bit, and we'll see how that goes. But so far, I'm pretty happy with the two-dimensional aspects of this. We're going to take this and use half the thickness to control that sway here, though. So stay tuned. In the next video, we're going to use all 3 dimensions of this coin slider to really help us fine-tune the design of this coin grabber. But until then, that's my 2 cents. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned and stay awesome.